The twin moons hung low over the horizon, casting a pale glow across the ruins of the colony. Crumbling walls and shattered machinery littered the barren landscape, their jagged silhouettes standing as monuments to what once thrived here. The air was thick with silence, broken only by the soft hum of the wind weaving through the ruins. It was quiet. Catal stood motionless at the edge of a collapsed structure, his armored form blending into the shadows. His violet eyes scanned the horizon, sharp and unyielding. For a Zarnak hunter, stillness was a weapon, and patience was a virtue. Tonight, he would need both. Behind him, the younger hunters shifted restlessly. Their talons scraped against the rubble, betraying their unease. One of them, barely old enough to have earned his hunting marks, stepped forward. His voice was a mixture of defiance and uncertainty. "Why are we here, Catal? Humans are weak. They aren't worthy prey." Catal didn't move. He didn't even look at the young hunter. "Weakness," he said, his voice low and deliberate, "is a deception. Underestimating it has cost more lives than strength ever will." The younger hunter frowned but didn't argue. The rest of the pack exchanged uneasy glances. None of them would admit it, but the human presence in these ruins unsettled them. The Zarnak had hunted across countless worlds, from the dense jungles of Urath to the frozen plains of Khazari. They had faced beasts that towered over starships, predators whose fangs could pierce even the strongest alloys. Yet here they stood, hesitant, because of humans. Welcome to HFY Genesis, the channel where humanity's resilience takes center stage. If you love thrilling sci-fi tales like this, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more adventures. Catal crouched, brushing his claws against the dirt. There it was, that faint musky scent. Human. It lingered in the air, elusive but undeniable. His lips curled into a subtle snarl. A blackened remains of a Herandit escaped Captain Catal's. "They know we're here," he said softly, his tone calm but edged with tension. "They're watching us." The younger hunter tensed. "Let them watch. We are Zarnak. We are the hunters." And the fact that this was Mim was important. Catal finally turned, his piercing gaze locking onto the hunter. "Do you know why I chose this mission? Why I brought you here?" The hunter hesitated. "To prove our strength?" Catal's expression remained unreadable. "No, to understand them. Humans are not like the prey you've hunted before. They don't fight like animals. They think, they adapt, they endure, and when you think they're cornered..." He paused, his voice growing quieter, almost reflective. "That's when they're most dangerous." A faint sound echoed through the ruins, a distant clang of metal. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but enough to send a ripple of unease through the pack. Catal's claws flexed instinctively. "They're testing us," he murmured, his voice low. "Don't move." The younger hunter's breathing quickened. "Why don't we strike first? Take the fight to them." Catal glanced at him, his tone sharp. "Do you know why humans survive? Because they don't fight the battle you expect. They fight the one you don't see coming." The wind picked up, carrying with it a faint whisper of something unnatural. The shadows seemed to deepen, closing in around them. Catal straightened, his posture tense. This wasn't fear. Zarnak didn't fear. But this was something close. A low chuckle drifted through the ruins, chilling and distinctly human. "You came here to hunt?" the voice called out, echoing against the walls. "You should have stayed away." The younger hunters exchanged panicked glances. Catal raised a hand, silencing them. He stepped forward, his tone calm but commanding. "Show yourself." There was no response, only silence. The ruins seemed to hold their breath, the oppressive stillness pressing against them. "They know how to play this game," Ketal muttered, more to himself than to his pack. His sharp eyes scanned the darkness, his instincts screaming at him to be ready for anything. "Stay close," he ordered, his voice steady. "And remember, they're not prey. They're hunters too. The hunt has begun, but who will emerge as the true predator? Stay with us to uncover the truth behind humanity's greatest strength. And if this story has you intrigued, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to HFY Genesis for more thrilling tales." The ruins of the colony stretched into the distance, a maze of jagged walls and collapsed structures. The Zarnak moved silently through the shadows, their glowing eyes scanning every crevice. Above, the twin moons cast an eerie light, painting the rubble in shades of silver and gray. Surbiton's electric voice pipes crackled as they roared. Major Moya raised his hand, signaling the group to halt. His violet eyes narrowed as he studied the broken landscape ahead. Something felt wrong. The silence was too complete, the stillness too perfect. "They're here," he said, his voice low but certain. "Close." The younger hunter from before scoffed. "Then why don't they attack? They're cowards, hiding in the dark." "They're waiting," Ketal replied, his tone sharp. "They want us to make the first move. Do not give them the advantage." The wind picked up, carrying a faint metallic scent. It wasn't blood, it was something else, something Ketal couldn't quite place. His claws flexed instinctively. Ahead, a faint glow flickered in the distance. It was a fire, small and contained, nestled among the rubble. Around it, the faint outline of a lone human sat, their silhouette slouched but calm. "There," Ketal said, pointing. "We approach silently. Do not engage until I give the signal." The group spread out, moving with the precision of seasoned hunters. The younger hunter moved ahead, his excitement betraying his inexperience. Ketal watched him closely, ready to intervene if necessary. As they neared the fire, the human didn't move. They remained seated, their back turned to the approaching Zarnak. "Too easy," the younger hunter muttered, raising his weapon. "Wait," Ketal hissed, but it was too late. The younger hunter fired. The plasma bolt streaked through the air, hitting its mark. But the human didn't fall. Instead, the figure crumpled into ash, revealing a charred decoy. "A trap," Tal barked, his voice rising. "Scatter!" Suddenly, the ground beneath them exploded. A hidden charge sent debris flying into the air. The Zarnak were thrown off balance, their formation shattered. From the shadows, a low, mocking laugh echoed. "Welcome to the hunt," a voice called out. It was human, laced with amusement, but carrying an edge of menace. The younger hunter scrambled to his feet, his eyes wide with panic. "Where are they?" he shouted, spinning wildly. "Calm yourself," Ketal snapped, his tone sharp. He scanned the darkness, his instincts screaming at him to focus. I cried out. The laugh came again, closer this time. "You think you're the predators?" the voice taunted. "You have no idea what you've walked into." "If this story has you hooked," the narrator interjected smoothly, "give it a thumbs up. It helps us bring you more epic tales like this." Ketal's heart raced, but his mind remained sharp. He gestured to his group, his voice low but commanding. "Regroup. Stay close. They're not fighting us. They're testing us." The Zarnak moved carefully, their weapons drawn and their eyes darting between the shadows. Ketal's senses were on high alert. Every sound, every movement felt amplified. Ekers gave the orders to Zarnak's men, and the mob spread, he too briefly analyzing the darkness around them. A sudden crack of stone drew their attention. One of the hunters turned too late. A trap door beneath him gave way, and he disappeared with a startled cry. "Down one." the voice called out, mockingly. "How many of you will make it out alive?" Harris. The remaining hunters froze, their fear palpable. Kital clenched his jaw. He couldn't afford to lose control of the group. "This is their tactic," he said, his voice steady but firm. "Fear. They want you to panic. Do not give them that power." "But how do we fight what we can't see?" another hunter demanded, his voice shaking. Kital's eyes narrowed. "We adapt. Like them." From the corner of his eye, he spotted a faint glint. A tripwire stretched across a narrow passage. He gestured for the others to stop. "There," he said, pointing. "They've rigged this entire place. Look closely. Move carefully." The group advanced cautiously, their movements slower now, more deliberate. Kital led the way, his sharp eyes scanning every inch of the terrain. Another laugh echoed, but this time it felt less mocking, more curious. "You're learning," the voice said. "Good. This will be more interesting than I thought." Kital tightened his grip on his weapon. "Show yourself," he growled, his voice low but edged with challenge. The ruins fell silent once more, the only sound the faint rustle of the wind. Kital's gaze remained fixed on the darkness ahead. He didn't know how many humans were out there, or what they were planning. But one thing was clear. This hunt was no longer in the Zarnak's control. The tables are turning, but who will emerge victorious? Stay with us to find out. And don't forget to like and subscribe to HFY Genesis for more thrilling adventures. The ruins seemed to close in on the Zarnak hunters as they advanced cautiously through the labyrinth of crumbling walls and twisted metal. Kital led the way, his movements deliberate, his senses sharpened to a razor's edge. Every shadow, every whisper of wind, felt charged with danger. The ruins spread out before them. "Stay close," Kital ordered, his voice firm. "Do not lose focus." The younger hunter from earlier glanced around nervously, his weapon gripped tightly. "Why don't they just attack?" he whispered. "They're playing with us." "That's exactly what they want you to think," Kital replied, his tone steady but laced with warning. "Humans don't waste energy on direct assaults. They wear you down, make you second-guess every step." A sudden clang echoed from the far end of the corridor, a sharp metallic sound that sent a ripple of unease through the group. "What was that?" one of the hunters hissed, his claws tightening around his plasma rifle. Kital raised a hand, signaling silence. "Focus. They're testing us." The Zarnak moved carefully, their eyes scanning every corner. The air felt heavier now, charged with the kind of tension that comes before a storm. The younger hunter stepped forward, his nerves clearly frayed. "This is a waste of time," he muttered, his voice rising. "We're the hunters. Why are we letting them toy with us?" "Because they want you to act rashly," Kital said, his tone sharp with authority. "And if you do, you'll die." The younger hunter scowled but didn't argue further. Ahead, the corridor widened into an open plaza. Broken statues and debris littered the ground, casting long shadows in the moonlight. At the center of the space stood an old water fountain, its base cracked and overgrown with weeds. "Spread out," Kital instructed. "Search for traps. Move slowly." The hunters obeyed, their movements cautious. Kital stayed at the edge of the plaza, his eyes scanning the terrain. Something about this space felt off. It was too open, too exposed. A faint sound caught his attention, a soft, rhythmic tapping, like footsteps on stone. Kital froze, his claws flexing. "They're here," he murmured, his voice barely audible. As if on cue, a shadow darted across the far end of the plaza. One of the hunters raised his weapon, firing a burst of plasma bolts. The energy streaked through the air, illuminating the darkness for a brief moment. But there was nothing there. "Hold your fire," Kital barked, his voice rising with urgency. The plaza fell silent again, the shadows deepening. "They're baiting us," Ketal said, his tone low but commanding. "Do not waste your ammunition." Suddenly, a trap was sprung. The ground beneath one of the hunters gave way, and he disappeared into a pit, his scream cut off abruptly. He stood on the pebbly ground and stared. Suddenly, "Another down!" a mocking voice called from the shadows. It was human, dripping with cold amusement. The younger hunter's composure broke. "This is madness," he shouted, his voice echoing. "We can't fight what we can't see." Ketal stepped forward, his presence imposing. "Enough," he snapped, his tone firm. "This is what they want. Panic. Chaos. Do not give it to them." The mocking voice returned, closer this time. "You're learning, Zarnak, but it won't save you." The hunters regrouped, their fear palpable but contained under Ketal's leadership. He crouched beside the fountain, examining the ground. His sharp eyes caught the faint shimmer of a nearly invisible tripwire stretched across the plaza. "Look here," he said, gesturing for the others. "They've rigged this place. Move carefully. Trust nothing." The group began to navigate the plaza, their movements slow and deliberate. The tension was suffocating, every step a gamble. Another shadow moved, and this time it was no decoy. A human figure emerged, darting between the ruins with fluid, calculated precision. "There!" the younger hunter shouted, raising his weapon. Ketal's hand shot out, gripping the hunter's arm. "No," he said, his voice low but commanding. "They want us to react. Wait for my signal." The human paused at the edge of the plaza, their face obscured by the shadows. "You came to hunt," they said, their voice calm yet cutting. "But you didn't expect to be the prey, did you?" Ketal straightened, his gaze locked on the figure. "You underestimate us," he said, his tone steady. The human chuckled softly. "No, Zarnak. I'm the one who understands you." Ven asked. Without warning, the human moved, triggering a hidden mechanism. A series of explosions erupted across the plaza, sending debris flying. The hunters scattered, their formation broken. Ketal shielded himself as a piece of stone flew past his head. When the dust settled, the human was gone. What would you do in Ketal's position? Let us know in the comments below. This story is only just beginning. The Zarnak hunters regrouped in a sheltered alcove, their breaths coming in sharp, uneven gasps. The ambush in the plaza had left them shaken, their once pristine armor now scorched and dented. Two of their own were gone, taken by traps laid with almost surgical precision. For the first time, Ketal saw doubt in their eyes. Doubt in him, in their mission, and in their ability to survive. "We've underestimated them," Ketal said, his voice steady but grim. "These humans, they've studied us." The younger hunter's claws clenched around his weapon. "Why don't we retreat, regroup, and come back stronger?" Tal turned to him sharply. "Because retreat means admitting defeat. We are Zarnak. We do not flee from a challenge." Another hunter, older and more composed, stepped forward. "With respect, Ketal, this is not a challenge, it's a slaughter. They know these ruins better than we ever could." Ketal's violet eyes narrowed. He knew they were right. This wasn't a hunt. It was a game, and the humans were winning. But he also knew that leaving now would mean more than just failure. It would mean surrendering the Zarnak's place at the top of the galactic food chain. As if sensing the group's growing unease, a voice echoed from the shadows. "You've come far," it said, smooth and mocking. "Most don't make it this long." I reached the door. The hunters tensed, their weapons raised. The voice continued, calm yet sharp. "But you're still making the same mistake. You think this is a hunt. It's not. It's a lesson." Section 2. Ketal stepped forward, his tone commanding. "Then show yourself, coward. Face us." A soft laugh drifted through the air. "Oh, I will. But not yet. First, you need to understand what you're up against." The ground trembled faintly, and a faint hum filled the air. Kital's sharp eyes scanned the surroundings, his instincts screaming that something had changed. At the far end of the ruins, a tall, slender figure emerged from the shadows. The human wore scavenged armor, pieced together from various sources, their face obscured by a cracked helmet. In their hands they held a strange device, a small, pulsating orb of blue energy. "What is that?" one of the hunters whispered, his voice trembling. The human's voice was calm but carried an edge of defiance. "This?" They held the orb higher, its glow intensifying. "This is your answer. This is why we're not prey." With a sudden motion, they slammed the orb into the ground. A shockwave of light rippled outward, and the Zarnak were thrown off balance. Kital managed to steady himself, his claws digging into the dirt. The younger hunter wasn't as fortunate. He collapsed, writhing as the energy coursed through him. "What is this?" he cried, his voice laced with panic. The humans stepped closer, their presence almost casual. "You think strength is everything. You think power is about brute force. But strength means nothing without knowledge, and we know you." Tel's mind raced. He had seen countless weapons in his years of hunting, but this was something different, something far more dangerous. The human crouched beside the fallen younger hunter, their voice soft but cutting. "Your kind hunts because you think you're untouchable. You think fear keeps you safe. But fear," they leaned closer, "is a weapon, and we've learned how to use it." "The sheriff?" Kital's claws flexed, his voice rising. "Enough. If you think we're afraid of you, you're mistaken." The humans straightened, their helmet tilting as though they were smiling beneath it. "Then come find me," they said simply, before disappearing into the shadows once more. The hunters regrouped again, their morale in shambles. The younger hunter was still trembling, his breathing shallow. "We can't win this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We're not here to win," Kital said firmly. "We're here to understand." The older hunter frowned. "Understand what? That humans are more dangerous than we thought?" "Yes," Kital replied. His tone was low but resolute, and that we've been hunting them the wrong way. Humans don't fight like us. They don't think like us. They evolve. For a moment, silence hung over the group, broken only by the faint hum of distant machinery. "We move forward," Kital said finally. "Together, carefully, and we finish this hunt." What would you do in Kital's position? Would you press on, or would you retreat? Let us know in the comments below. Your thoughts could shape the story's next twist. The hunters advanced again, their steps slower now, more deliberate. Every movement felt calculated, every breath measured. The ruins seemed alive, the shadows shifting and watching. Kital led the way, his mind racing. He didn't know what the humans' ultimate plan was, but he knew one thing for certain. They weren't just prey, they were something else entirely. As the group reached the heart of the ruins, a massive structure loomed before them. It was ancient, its surface etched with strange markings. The human's voice echoed from within. "Welcome to the end of your hunt," it said, calm but menacing. "Let's see if you've learned anything." Kital's claws tightened around his weapon. This was it, the turning point. Whatever happened next would change everything. Thank you for sticking with us. If you're enjoying the twists and turns, hit that subscribe button to never miss a story from HFY Genesis. The hunt is far from over. The ruins echoed with the sound of footsteps, rapid, calculated, and growing louder. Tital led his team toward the heart of the human's trap, his claws gripping his weapon tightly. Every step felt heavier, every breath sharper. The ancient structure loomed ahead, its jagged walls etched with time-worn markings. The human's voice echoed again, cutting through the tension like a blade. "You've come this far," they said, almost amused. "But are you ready for what comes next?" Tital growled, his tone low and firm. "Enough games. Face us." Silence answered him. Then the ground began to tremble. "Move!" Tital barked, his voice sharp. The team scattered just as a section of the ruins collapsed behind them, sending debris crashing to the ground. Dust filled the air, thick and choking. The Zarnak regrouped quickly, their formation tighter than before. "They're driving us towards something," the older hunter muttered, his voice laced with unease. "I know," Tital replied, his eyes fixed on the structure ahead. "And we're going to find out what." As they stepped inside the massive structure, the air grew colder, heavier. The walls were lined with strange devices, glowing orbs and metallic panels that hummed faintly. The space felt alive, as if it were watching them. She tried not to look too closely to see what Brat had pulled from the clothes box beneath his bed. Still, his outfit had lost morality. Suddenly, the entrance slammed shut behind them. "Trap!" one of the hunters shouted, his voice echoing. Tital spun, his claws ready, but there was no sign of their enemy. The human's voice returned, this time louder, closer. "Welcome to the end game, Zarnak. Let's see what you're really made of." The floor beneath them lit up, revealing a grid of glowing tiles. Tital barely had time to shout a warning before a section of the grid exploded, forcing the group to scatter. "Keep moving," he roared, his tone commanding. The hunters darted across the grid, each step a gamble. The tiles lit up in random patterns, each one threatening to detonate. One of the younger hunters misstepped, triggering an explosion that sent him flying. "Another down," the human said, their voice devoid of pity. Tital's fury boiled over. "Show yourself," he bellowed. "I'm right here," the voice replied, calm and taunting. From the shadows, the human emerged. Their armor gleamed faintly in the dim light, and in their hand was the strange orb they had used earlier. "You think this is about survival?" the human asked, their voice steady. "It's about proving a point. You're not the apex predators you think you are." Tital didn't wait. With a roar, he lunged forward, his claws slashing through the air. The human moved quickly, sidestepping his attack with almost inhuman precision. "Too slow," they said, planting a device on Tital's armor. Before he could react, the device discharged a burst of energy, sending him sprawling to the ground. The human turned to the remaining hunters, their voice sharp. "Who's next?" Shaking his head, he answered, "There." The older hunter charged, his plasma rifle blazing. The human dodged the shots effortlessly, their movements fluid and calculated. In a blur, they closed the distance and disarmed him, sending his weapon skidding across the floor. "You rely too much on your technology," the human said, their tone almost disappointed. "You've forgotten how to fight." Another hunter attacked, but the human was ready. They activated the orb, releasing a shock wave that sent the Zarnak stumbling backward. Tital forced himself to his feet, his breathing labored but his resolve unshaken. "You're clever," he said, his tone steady. "But cleverness won't save you." The human tilted their head. "Cleverness is why I'm still alive." Tital glanced at his fallen comrades, his mind racing. They were outmatched, but not defeated. He noticed the glowing panels on the walls, the faint hum of energy coursing through them. "Hit the walls," he ordered, his voice firm. The hunters hesitated, but Tital's tone left no room for argument. They opened fire, plasma bolts striking the panels. Sparks flew and the room shook as the energy grid destabilized. The missiles impacted the damaged cells with small detonations, but the missiles' pressure amplified the The human faltered, their balance shifting as the ground beneath them trembled. Smart, they admitted, their voice calm despite the chaos. But not enough. Yet. Vey activated the orb again, this time aiming directly at Catal. A blinding beam of energy shot toward him, but he dodged at the last second, the heat scorching the air beside him. Cal roared, leaping toward the human. This time his claws found their mark, slashing through the armor. The human staggered, blood seeping through the cracks. "You're not invincible," Catal growled, his tone low and menacing. The human chuckled, their voice weak but defiant. "Neither are you." The structure groaned as the energy grid collapsed entirely. Panels exploded and debris rained down from above. Catal grabbed his remaining hunters. "Out! Now!" The group sprinted toward an opening, the human's voice chasing after them. "This isn't over, Zarnak. Not by a long shot." "Okay." Catal glanced back, his gaze locking with the humans. For a brief moment he saw something in their eyes, something more dangerous than anger or fear. It was determination. The team burst out of the structure just as it collapsed behind them, a cloud of dust and debris billowing into the sky. Catal stood among the rubble, his breathing heavy. The ruins were silent once more, but the echoes of the battle lingered in his mind. "We lost too many," the older hunter said, his tone somber. "We learn more," Catal replied. He turned to his remaining team, his voice steady but grim. "Humans are not prey. They are survivors. And that makes them the most dangerous beings we've ever faced." The younger hunter looked at him, his expression a mix of awe and fear. "What do we do now?" Catal's claws flexed. "We adapt, like them." The air was thick with dust and silence, broken only by the faint hum of wind weaving through the ruins. Catal stood among the rubble, his claws digging into the scorched earth. His once pristine armor was cracked and scarred, a testament to the battle they had barely survived. Around him, the remaining hunters gathered, their expressions a mixture of exhaustion and unease. The structure they had just escaped lay in ruins, its ancient walls reduced to jagged piles of stone. Sparks flickered from broken panels, and faint tendrils of smoke curled into the dim sky. The battlefield was still, but Catal's mind was anything but. "They let us live," the younger hunter murmured, his voice trembling. "Why, they could have killed us all." Catal didn't answer immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the collapsed structure, his thoughts racing. "Because they wanted us to leave with a message," he said finally, his tone low and reflective. "A warning." The older hunter stepped forward, his voice steady but tinged with frustration. "A warning? For what? That humans are dangerous? We already knew that." Cal turned to face him, his violet eyes narrowing. "Not like this. They're not just dangerous. They're deliberate. Every trap, every move they made, it was calculated. They didn't fight us for survival. They fought us to teach us a lesson." The words hung in the air, heavy and unspoken. For a species like the Zarnak, built on the belief of their superiority, this realization was a wound deeper than any claw or blade could inflict. The group stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their losses pressing down on them. 2 hunters were gone, their absence a void that would not easily be filled. The younger hunter crouched, his claws tracing patterns in the dirt. "We came here to prove our strength," he said softly. "But they proved something else." "Skip." Catal's voice was softer now, almost somber. "Strength is not just in the body. It's in the mind, in the will to adapt. That is why humans are different. That is why they survive." The older hunter shook his head, his frustration bubbling to the surface. "So what now, Catal? Do we go back to the others and tell them we failed? That humans are untouchable? Kale's claws flexed, his gaze hardening. No. We tell them the truth, that hunting humans is not a test of strength. It's a test of understanding. And those who underestimate them will not survive. Katal stepped away from the group, his movements slow and deliberate. He stood at the edge of the rubble, his gaze lifting to the sky. The stars above seemed distant, cold, and yet they were a reminder of the vastness of the galaxy. We thought we were the apex predators, he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. But humans don't see the galaxy as prey and predator. They see it as a challenge, and they rise to every challenge. The younger hunter approached cautiously. Do you think they'll come after us? Katal's lips curled into a faint snarl, not of anger, but of determination. No. They don't need to. They know we'll take this lesson back to the others, and that will do more to protect them than any weapon ever could. What was your favorite moment in the story? Was it the humans' ingenuity, or the Zarnak's realization of their own limits? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. The Zarnak began their retreat, their steps heavy but their resolve hardening with each movement. Katal led the way, his thoughts a mixture of frustration, respect, and an unshakable curiosity. The humans had not just survived, they had outsmarted them, outmaneuvered them, and left them with a lesson that would ripple through the galaxy. As they reached their ship, the younger hunter looked back one last time. The ruins were silent now, but the weight of what had happened there would stay with them forever. Katal placed a hand on the hunter's shoulder, his tone firm but calm. Do not let fear guide you. Let it teach you. That is the human way. And now, it must become ours. The ship's engines roared to life, lifting them away from the planet. Katal's gaze remained fixed on the ruins until they disappeared into the horizon. They're more than we thought, he muttered. Much more. The ship soared through the endless darkness of space, the faint hum of its engines blending with the silence of the void. Katal stood on the bridge, his claws resting lightly on the console, his eyes fixed on the viewport. The planet they had left behind was now a distant speck, fading into the cold expanse of stars. Interlace said, failure lingered in the air, a bitter taste, heavy and unshakable. 2 hunters lost, a mission incomplete. And yet, as Katal stared into the void, he couldn't shake the feeling that they had gained something far greater than a trophy or victory. Understanding. They outsmarted us, Katal murmured, his voice low as though speaking to himself. Not with strength, but with something far more powerful. The younger hunter approached cautiously, his footsteps echoing softly across the bridge. His expression was a mixture of lingering fear and reluctant respect. Humans. They're unpredictable, he said, his tone uncertain. I thought they'd be weak, that they'd run. They don't run, Katal replied, his voice reflective. They adapt, they fight. And when you think you've defeated them... He paused, his gaze hardening. That's when they're at their most dangerous. The older hunter joined them, his usual confidence tempered by the events on the surface. So, what do we tell the others, Katal? He asked, his voice edged with frustration. That humans can't be hunted? That we, the Zarnak, were beaten by prey? He stopped, squared his shoulders. Katal turned to face him, his violet eyes sharp. No, he said firmly. We tell them the truth, that humans are not prey. They are survivors, fighters, and if we ever hunt them again, we must be prepared for more than their strength. We must be ready to face their minds. The words settled heavily in the room, the weight of them undeniable. And you think they'll come after us? The younger hunter asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Katarl's claws flexed, his tone unyielding. No, they don't need to. They've already sent their message. He turned back to the viewport, his gaze fixed on the distant stars. And we will carry it for them. Hours later, as the ship glided silently through the void, Katal sat alone at the communication console. His claws hovered over the controls, his mind racing. Finally, he began recording a report, his voice calm but resolute. To the Zarnak High Council, he began, his tone steady. We encountered humans on our latest hunt, and what we found was unlike anything we have faced before. They do not run, they do not cower. They think, they adapt, and they fight with a precision that rivals even our best warriors. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle before continuing. They are not prey. They are survivors. And if we do not evolve as they do, then one day, it will be us who are hunted. Jack said. Cal's claws tapped lightly against the console, his thoughts lingering on the human who had outmaneuvered them. We believed ourselves to be the apex predators of this galaxy, he said softly. But the humans showed us that strength alone is not enough. To survive, we must learn. And perhaps we must change. The recording ended, but Katal remained seated, his gaze drifting once more to the stars outside. The encounter with the humans had left scars, both physical and mental. But it had also ignited something unexpected. Respect. Perhaps we'll meet again, he murmured, his voice barely audible. And next time, it will not be as hunters and prey. The stars beyond the viewport shimmered faintly, their cold light a reminder of how vast and unpredictable the galaxy truly was. Thank you for tuning into HFY Genesis. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. What was your favorite moment? And where should we take the story next? Share your ideas below. We'd love to hear from you.